isn't one of our cars.
No, I've seen this car a few times. This is a 91 Firebird 305 TBI. I've done some stuff to it, but it clearly needs some more. We've got a shift kit from TransGo for the 700R4. I also need to replace a brake line, and I don't remember which one.
There's only 4.
It's one of the front two, but we're gonna see if we can tear in a transmission on this thing. So first I'm gonna reposition it a little bit, get it up on the lift, and start draining the transmission fluid. And then I'm gonna look at the instructions in the thing for the shift kit so that I make sure that I do the instructions right. Because
are you getting that close to
it's, what do you mean? Why am I getting that close to
right
I want everybody to know it's okay to read the instructions.
Okay.
Read the instructions.
We can actually get a, not Jeep pretty high up there.
Wow. Oh, I have so many things this car needs. Oh yes, a 700R4 where the bottom half of it is just plastic. It's one of those slant ones so you can get to everything. This car needs a lot of work. The exhaust is garbage. The EGR stuff a long time ago was just hacked and
oh wow.
had some tin foil wrapped and clamped around it. We know it's got a brake hose that is swollen up. I gotta try to remember which one it was.
There's like some goo around the oil filter.
Yeah.
There's just goo everywhere. Up top.
Yeah, I mean, this car is from 91, so it's almost as old as we are. We're gonna have to drain fluid from this. And they didn't put a drain plug on it. Sweet.
Of course not.
Thanks, GM. Drive shaft. New joints seem good on this, for the most part. Pretty sure this rear end is leaking out of the vent. So I don't know if it was overfilled or if it's been getting hot or what. I might want to check that while I'm in here, but we've had this gas tank out before, which was not fun. And it just didn't go back in right. Okay, well, this is gonna be the fun part, is draining the transmission pan without a drain plug. It'd be nice if they gave us one of those. So now we get to hope that our big oiled catch can thing is big enough to catch what ends up coming out. Looking at it, it's like the same width as this thing. I don't know if I want to put that on top to catch the most of it and then pull it out, because we're going to tilt it down like this.
Go ahead and grab a couple rags. Yes, these are cut up t-shirts.
Hey, they work. I'm going to take this rubber half cover off of the transmission just so that when we drain it, oil doesn't go into that. These are surprisingly all, they look like wood screws. They're like sharp threaded screws.
I wonder how easily those things crack. Like, I feel like any kind of rock hits it, it's just gonna break it.
I don't know, it's lasted this long.
Somehow. Yeah, it looks torque converter-y.
That is a big son of a bitch.
I'm surprised this works. There's like 3 points. They put 2 welds on there, and that keeps it to the flex plate, and everything's fine.
I mean, this car ain't making
not enough power. Yeah,
150 horsepower right now. That's cool though. Means all the bolts for the transmission are on the top, which sucks in this car especially. Well, let's make a mess. Now, these are the 2 bolts for the shift cable brackets. They're in the 2 middle holes on the left side. They're 13s, but they have a different head. They don't have a washer. Fluid just started coming out of one of the holes up front. I left 1 bolt in the front, slightly threaded in to hold it if it pops down.
blood.
It's already dripping in it.
Yep.
So I'm gonna pop that seal with a screwdriver, pry bar.
Hey, you know how like a Krispy Kreme, you can watch the donuts go through like the drizzle fountain of icing? This is the forbidden icing.
It looks like it, but I guarantee it doesn't taste the same. Don't ask me how I know.
So one of the things when you're changing like automatic transmission fluids, that the manual will say something kind of ridiculous like 12 quarts of fluid, and there's not going to be 12 quarts coming out of here. Usually that number includes what's inside the torque converter too. So this may only hold like less than half of that number if you see in your owner's manual.
Yeah, you can never get all of your transmission fluid out. There's always some, even if you have your torque converter out, you can't get all of your transmission fluid out of it. And when you're working on a lift, watch your friggin' head. Or if you're me and working on your lift. The difference in these torques is wild. If you can't tell, me and Billy don't like to get messy, especially now that we have a lift. That's why I'm doing this all slow and making sure it all goes in the pan, because I don't want to have to clean it up.
Yeah, if you're not careful with this, you can easily get covered in a waterfall of the forbidden Robitussin.
It will bathe you in the Robitussin.
Like if they didn't want people to drink it, why'd they make it so cherry colored?
It looks delicious.
Yeah.
It really does. It looks amazing. Bottom of your pan, there's always a magnet, and then I always scrape the magnet. You can see this one does have some metal shavings that have gotten attached to it, and we'll of course clean this off. But this transmission's been in this car for over 30 years, so it's gonna have a little bit, but it honestly doesn't look that bad. I mean, the fluid's obviously pretty used, but nothing looks or smells burnt. So it appears the filter just falls out.
Yeah, that's the way it was on the truck too.
Ooh, this is gonna be fun. I gotta try to get the valve body out, and I gotta try to remember where everything goes. I believe most of these are 3/8 or 9 millimeters, or they're 10 mils. I'm gonna check that first. I know you have to take off this right here. That puts pressure on your shifter.
Detent thing.
Detent thing. Those are 10s. Looks to be, that might be the thing I need to replace. Going up to the carburetor. I know I have to take this tube out of the way. That's probably our kick down TV cable mechanism. All right, now I take off 800 10 mil bolts and get covered in oil.
As is tradition.
But I didn't take that all the way off, or it'd be everywhere right now. We don't want to drop the check valves and stuff. Take this off and have everything stay in its place.
Yeah. So you can take the last bolt out.
If you push it up against.
Yeah.
Like right there, just hold it right there. Now remember, it's still attached on this. Just hold it level, just
Okay.
right there. Okay. Right down. No, it's bolted under that thing too. Alright. This thing is going to sit here. Oh, there's a check valve in there. At least it's got a retainer on it. So there's always three. There's two gaskets and then this piece of metal. Well, there's the other side. There are check balls on this. Don't want to lose my check balls because I don't know where they go. There was just a spring on top of it.
We're gonna need to pull that other piston out.
Oh, God, this transmission fluid smells terrible.
It does have a very like burnt color to it.
I mean, it's as old as we are, so I don't blame it. It's worked this long. So now I have to bring the car back down because I don't have the instructions or the parts with me. So I think the shift kit, this SK700-G shift kit, I think that this company is great. They obviously have extensive knowledge into these transmissions. Man, this is a novel. This looks like my study guide in high school when they said you can use one sheet of paper and that's all you get. I'm not a transmission guy. I don't really know this stuff very well. I've done it a few times. So we are going to try to blaze through all of the extra stuff. I mean, he's talking about God and algebra and French, and there's a lot of stuff in here. So I'm going to try to pare it down and figure out what it is that we can use. Some of this talks about if the transmission is out and apart, some things you can modify on like the pump. I'm not taking the transmission out of this car. If I do, it's not getting this transmission back in it.
No.
So
it's getting like a Tremec or something.
Yeah, and an LS, not a 305 whatever garbage. No, it's a great engine. It's just
in this early OBD one.
In 90 something.
Fuel injection, no.
Yeah. There's big springs, there's little springs, there's different color springs. There's some thing for making a tool to take out roll pins. I don't know. We're just gonna try to go step by step because this is a lot. First thing it says is, don't worry, you can do it. And then you have to read the entire book.
Allegedly.
And it's constantly saying in the instructions, it's like, don't worry about learning all of it the first time. I'm like, I'm doing it right the first time. I don't know. Let's figure it out.
So these two?
Yep. So it looks like there's two check balls. So when you get the kit, it's got roll pins, and the roll pins aren't just regular roll pins. They're very thin, rolled multiple times, and they've got one little tab at the top that digs in. So it gives you this tool with the kit that you're supposed to sharpen down, and you stick in it, and you have to turn them clockwise. And then you basically stick them in, turn them clockwise as you pull them out, and this little piece of metal will pull them out. So save your roll pins. I'm going to try to do one set of valves at a time. That way I'm not mixing anything up. Okay, so I figured a little bit of it out in these instructions. Since I'm not doing the accumulators and stuff that's still bolted to the transmission yet, I'm just focusing on doing this valve body. They take a picture of the valve body and they split it between 2 pages. So step 7 is the left side of the valve body. So I've got it oriented. I'm going to do the whole left side of the valve body and then the whole right side. So starting down here with A, which is the one I just took out, it shows you, depending on the year, how it's set up. So since we've got a 90, 91 or 92, we're following all the instructions for 88 and up, and they are colored. So it says you can choose which spring based on what application. All the springs are different colors. So when I pulled it out, this right here, for what it says is the combined shift TV and low range bushing and valve, had this yellow spring on it. I don't know if that's a factory spring. I assume it is, but they are saying to go with the black spring. So I'm going to keep all my springs separate. And the black spring that they've got pictured is the one that's got the tight little coils at the ends. So that's what I'm putting back on that. And it goes right on there. Slide it back into this. And it just slides up in there, and then this whole system right here can go back into the unit. So I'm just gonna make sure everything's clean. Looks like there's a little bit of gunk buildup. I'm gonna wipe out of there. But other than that, this one's ready to go back in. I'll slide that back up in there. And then when you're looking at these, when you pull them out, if you forget how they go in, the hole that the roll pin goes into this slot right here. There's a little slot right here, and that's how the roll pin slides into that. So I reinstalled the little unit that just fell out of there, and then I'm going to put this one back up in it. You don't want to force any of this stuff because most of it is aluminum. I might have to bring it up and wiggle it some. Get it done right, it should go up in there. And then this slot on the end is vertical, and you should be able to look down the hole and see your slot for your roll pin. So now I'm going to grab my roll pin, grab my little roll pin tool, and if you do it right, the slot on the end should be vertical. You should be able to spring this right here. It already seems to me like this is a different spring rate, which is cool to me because that guy seems to know what he's doing. I don't. So it springs. I'm happy with that. That's the first one. So I'm going to take that spring that I removed out of there that I don't trust anymore, and I'm going to set it somewhere else. Okay, now I grab my roll pin. I'm going to go to B, which is going to be the one right beside it. So right here, you stick this tool we made in, you turn it to the right until it grabs and spins, and you pull up, and that extracts that. I'm going to save him, and then I gotta see how this one comes out. Might be able to push it out, probably not. I'm probably gonna have to grab it from the end like the other one. So let's see what comes out with this one. It's just like the other one, there's multiple parts to it. So that came out like that. So this is the 2 to 3 shift TV, all years. There are 2 sections to this. This will be your 2-3 shift. This is your 2-3 shift TV. So this part, I'm just gonna lay down right there. This part comes apart right here, and it's got a spring. That spring is also yellow. I'm guessing everything in this transmission is probably gonna be yellow, but that spring is yellow, and they're saying to put the kinky end yellow back into it. So that's gonna be this one. So I'm gonna toss this over here, put the kinky end back onto this. I believe that should be good to go back in. I'm just gonna drop that in there. I'll push that down all the way. That's good. Right back up in there. Seems like everything's working. I'll find my roll pin. Put the side with the tab at the top. I'll look for my slot right there. Pop that back in. You can push it in with your thumbnail actually. And that is held in. So that was B on our sheet. So now we're gonna go on to C, which is we have a spring option, and for 88 and up, this is the 3-4 shift and the 3-4 shift TV. It says for standard gas 2-wheel drives, white, that would be our white spring, and for diesels, Camaros, and 4-wheel drives, brown spring. So since this is a Firebird, which is essentially a Camaro, I'm going to choose the brown spring. Let me pull it out and make sure I'm getting the right size brown spring, because some of these are orange, and I think it's going to be this one, or it might be this one. It's going to be our third roll pin to pull out. Always go clockwise as you're pulling these out. There's that. Alright, this is our 3-4 right there. I'm going to slide this out purely because I want to make sure that nothing is in there. Any chunks or anything might fall out if I take it out, so I might as well try. I give the guy credit, he did put pictures in here. I was complaining about his instructions, but honestly they're not as bad. He's right, you just have to have patience and figure out the way that he set it up. So this is your 3-4 shift, this is your 3-4 shift TV, and for 88 and up, so I'm gonna, ooh, what is that? A little bit of sludge in there. So I'm going to pull it out. This spring is green for some reason. We're going to choose the brown one. So there's supposed to be a white one. It says white or brown, and one of them is a different length. So my guess is going to be
probably that one.
It's this one because of the diameter. So we'll clean this off. Put this on here. Put it into there. Much better. And then put this up into it first. Okay, so we threw the green one in the bin. Now we're going to go on to the fourth. So it's D. So it says that later models deleted TCC. So that's a torque converter, shift valves, and bore. It's casted closed. So that's this right here. This is a later model. So we're not going to have that. So then we're just going to skip D because there's nothing there. They deleted it. So that's cool. These two right here, these two roll pins are, the top one's not going to get any changes. That one's staying in. The bottom one, we're going to pull it out and we're going to put the orange spring into it. Alright, well that one is under some pressure. So make sure that you pull it out somewhere where it's not going to go flying. So there's this little aluminum plug in. It's going to sit like that. And then your spring. The spring that came out of this was whitish pinkish color. So I'm going to replace this one with the long orange spring.
It'd be nice if he would, if these would come like painted on all sides instead of just one side.
But that's what they say is the long orange spring. It's actually shorter than the one that we pulled out.
Yeah.
So.
But there's another orange spring that's even shorter.
I don't know if there was anything else in that. I'm just going to put that back in. So that spring went in like this, and then there's the aluminum cup, the cup side towards the rod, and that aluminum cup.
This is nice.
I mean, it's pretty good. I ragged on it at first because I'm stupid, but it's actually very well laid out and designed. So on this roll pin, you got to actually push that aluminum plug all the way in there, and then that's good to go. Okay. Since we didn't have D for some reason, I guess they got rid of it. They deleted the TCC shift valve. So I'm going to go on to the other side, which is step 8. I don't know if any of these other springs right here are going to be a part of this. So I'm going to put them all back in this bag until I find out I need them. So now we're going on to the right side of the valve body. So I grabbed number 4 bag. That's the one that's got all the fancy upgraded TV stuff. It's got one check ball that's made out of steel, one that's made out of rubber or something. Bunch of small parts. So just make sure that you don't lose any of these small parts. So this is their upgraded TV valve. It's in its own bag. The rest of this I'm going to leave in this bag. So step A, install short brown spring. Okay, so I need to take this out. So that's our TV valve. That's the most important thing that we're changing today. So this is the TV valve roll pin. Somebody has already been in here because they grabbed this with some pliers on the end.
Oh, there's another roll pin?
Yeah, there's another roll pin. They didn't tell me about that one. By the way, there's one on the other side. Well, that one's definitely going to need pliers because somebody has... So this is your TV valve. Ooh, it is rough too. Probably shouldn't be this rough. God damn butterfingers.
there's definitely some rough surface in there.
Yeah. Somebody has done this part before. They did upgrade the TV valve to this exact one. If original TV spring is longer than red TV spring furnished, reuse it without aluminum shim. If original is shorter, which it is not, okay, so I'm supposed to use that without aluminum shim.
This is what it means by, so the green one's the one we pulled out, the red one came with the kit, and the green one is like 1 turn of the coil longer.
We're not going to use the supplied red spring. This plunger, it says if plunger has no number or a number 94, install the new TV valve furnished. So this is a number 94, it says right on the end. So I am going to install the new TV valve. So this new TV valve has a short brown spring that goes into the end of it, and it's all in this little tiny bag right here. It's the same as what they had in it, they just didn't do all the other stuff like I'm doing. Which is weird, why would you do all this and not do the whole kit? So there's this tiny little brown spring, goes in the end of this plunger, and then there's this conical spring that you put up against the edge of the plunger, and then you've got this green spring that was in it with the shift kit part number in it. I think that's just their free advertising. We're not installing the small spacer slash washer, so we can put these all back in here. So I got the roll pin for the TV valve right here. So now the TV valve is held into place, and you can push it back and forth, but it doesn't come out. So now I'm going to take our original spring, and then this valve goes into this piece, and then our roll pin for that is the one that was on the other side, oriented to the top. I want to make sure that that spring ends up seating there, just like that, into the aluminum part. And I'm going to flip this over, put my roll pin in for this. So the roll pin's going to go into this slot, so I'm going to try to line that up right there. Installed, that's all it goes. So now that springs. So that's our TV valve. That's the main thing everybody wants to replace in this. It controls a lot of the functions of this transmission. So we're going to keep going. So we're making no changes to the 4 to 3 sequence and the 3 to 4 relay. No changes to that. Where this hole is, going in from that side, that is the TV limit. We are making no changes to that. So we are on step E of step 8. So that's going to be this one that lines up with this roll pin right here.
Okay.
So this is called your second piston, second accumulator housing. There's some stuff above and below the gasket and the plate with the holes. But I took it off because you're supposed to match up one of the springs that we're about to do with some numbers that are inside this. And I noticed something. This spring is in 2 pieces. So that will definitely cause it to not want to shift correctly. I'm surprised it was shifting as good as it did. It just broke, and it's all cocked at an angle too. So something hung up and bound, or this just broke, and I don't know how long it's been like that, but supposedly I can take this out of here. See, there's a piece in there, there's chunks. You want to get all the chunks out, make sure they don't go back in. And then I gotta figure out how to get this thing out.
Okay, so the centerpiece stays in there, and it's just this thing.
Oh.
So we added the spring seat and the spring to it. There wasn't a spring seat or a spring when we pulled this thing off. And this piston's supposed to sit on top of that.
So the 2 seals that are marked with green on here appear to be the seals for these two pistons. So there wasn't a spring in here before.
That's correct, or that spring seat.
I do know it's going to be fun to put back together. Where did this come from? I just took this out of there, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, alright, well, where are the numbers that they're talking about? No numbers measure the diameter of the small ring tower as shown.
Wait, see, that's the thing that we have. So is this the fourth accumulator?
Because the thing I pulled off is this housing.
It might be, I think maybe they're pointing to something above that.
Oh, this just gets more and more fun.
So we need to take this actuator piston thing out now.
This is supposedly the second gear piston, or the second piston, I don't know.
That is a big rotating clip.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the instructions and you look at step 4, this is like your second gear piston. So there's a thing on the side of the transmission. It's like a cap that you have to pry out. Once that comes out, then you can pull out some of this other stuff, and then eventually you can get this thing out. Now this thing, very easy to know the shape. It's got a C-clip in it, so we're taking that C-clip out. Per their instructions, inside you've got this, which is what they call a steel cover, and they want you to notch in 4 places some notches for the oil to exit this. So I'm gonna notch that, and then it says there's a blue, oh, there's a second blue spare.
And there's a shim that wasn't in there originally.
Yeah, so what's that shim for?
Yeah,
It's a band adjustment shim.
use none or one to adjust band.
Why does it wants me to put this blue spring inside of that spring?
Yeah, reuse one of them and then put the other one in there.
Weird, but okay. So it had me install one of the 2 blue springs inside of this big spring. And now I'm just gonna put it back together. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to use the press or something, because now there are 2 springs and only one of me. Want to make sure that that thing is seated all the way. Sweet. Now I can take the pressure off. So now it's got oil drain holes on all 4 sides. I guess that's important. So the order of reassembly is going to be this piece and then this piece. And we're going to try it with the spacer first. Yeah, I don't think we need that spacer. Okay, so we're back. We had to take a minute to figure all this stuff out. What was it, the second piston, second/4th piston?
Yeah.
Whatever, the big one that goes in from the side of the transmission. We got that taken apart. We did everything in the instructions for that. We got that back together. That was, you have to take it apart in step 3 to see which second piston you have. And while you're in there, you add another spring, which is in step 4. There's a secondary spring, it's blue. It's one of the 2 blue springs that are identical that you get. You put that in there, rebuild all this, put it back together. Now that I've got that back and figured out what this car has, it said, it says get second piston code from step 3A using bushing code and select matching spring.
For ours, it was the 95-1.
95-1, which was actually it looks like it's for the heavy duty. They must have put that in this Firebird. Anyway, the spring that corresponds with that right here is the black one. They've got brown, orange, and black. So we're going to use that black one. So that is for step E of step 8, which is this roll pin. Came out pretty easy. Oh, everything came out of it. Okay, so this is from step E of step 8. So this is your accumulator valve. So taking this apart, there's a purple spring, then there's your accumulator valve, and then the rest of this is just machined aluminum. Yep, okay. There's an aluminum plug down inside of that. Yep, so this one is going to get the black spring. Alright, all very weird. Anyway. that was step E. Now we're going to go to step G, which is the one right beside it. That comes out pretty easy. Ploop. There are some springs in here. So this only has the purple. So what they say on the instructions for this is a purple spring. You're supposed to take this outside plug.
And you put the purple spring in there?
Put the purple and the skinny white, because it was slightly smaller than the diameter of that dot that they're talking about. Alright, I guess I'm going to take out H. Okay. So the spring that was in it was white. We're putting the blue spring in. Putting that back together. Like that one, it's just the spring against the roll pin. So that was H. So it wants you to check all the hole sizes. I'm not doing that. I don't have time. I'm not drilling anything. They do want you to check to make sure that
this hole right here
exists, and if not, you're supposed to drill it.
It says to use the gasket as a template for where to drill that hole.
So it's got that hole. And then we checked if there's a hole right here beside this hole to the left of it and under that hole. You're supposed to use an extra check ball
in that hole.
In this hole. It doesn't have that, so we don't have to worry about it. And we checked the other check valves. This one goes right here, and then these two right beside each other. These ones, they've been moving around a little bit. You can see they've worn the plate, and I looked at the transmission. They've worn the transmission. I can't do much about that right now, so they're just going back the way they go. The way the gasket goes on, you always want to make sure you wipe it off. We wiped everything off. The way the gasket goes on, it actually fits over the check balls when you drop it down, just like that.
Wait, it's not going over that check ball.
Oh, see, that's weird.
So maybe he hasn't marked wrong his directions.
Maybe he does. Hopefully that doesn't screw me later. So now I'm going to look at this side. This is for your case, plate, and fourth accumulator. So we were wrong about that one. The directions in this kit are wrong. The one where this teardrop shaped gasket is, that is where that check ball goes. They've got it marked incorrectly in here. So we've got that right. The other thing is there's these two little filters. One goes in at an angle on this side, and one's up here that goes in straight. They've got it marked. I'm just gonna brake clean these out so there's nothing in them, and then stick them back in there. Okay, so we've got our plate with our gaskets. We have both gaskets, the plate in between it, the check balls are in the right spot. We're using the two bolts that they said are our alignment bolts. And we stuck the piston up in there with the yellow spring that they said. So we're gonna try to do this. Well, you wanna make sure that you don't have any of the balls move anywhere. As you put this up here, you also have to hook this. You have to hook this hook into the side of this piece. So,
don't think any check balls moved, or we wouldn't be able to get it all the way up there.
Okay, so this one we've got the blue spring that we added underneath of this with the cup that was there. It didn't have that. And then this orange spring goes on the top side. I'm probably gonna have to draw this up with the bolts. So I'm gonna get this up here and started. All right, move your hands. That was a bitch.
That's a lot of spring in there.
It didn't have any before. It only had that one spring that was broken.
Yeah.
Now it's got a non-broken spring and another blue spring. this thing's gonna drive a lot different. So one thing we forgot when we were putting this together, there are these two obvious spots for check balls to go. And I had those two that we pulled out before we started doing all this. So we pulled the valve body back off, dropped those two check balls back in there. The accumulator spring that's in there will hold the plate up, so if you forget them, you can always just drop this valve body, drop those in there, and we're going to put this back in and start putting it back together. Everything's so greasy. So I removed the TV cable. That rod goes to this mechanism that we added. I'm replacing the TV cable, so I want to hook this on this rod. You can supposedly do it. I mean, you should be able to do it without having the pan off, but I figured I might as well right now. Old TV cable out. Time to put the new one back in. You see this cable?
Yeah, and that hole, yeah.
So this cable on this kick down mechanism has this, it's just a piece of metal. It hooks in the end of this eyelet, and then this piece right here is what actually bolts into the transmission. I'm gonna hook that up first, and I'm gonna bolt it together. And it's got a seal on it that goes into the transmission. Okay, so there's a tiny little 10 mil bolt that holds that plastic piece once you've got it into the seal. And if you still got the pan off, you should be able to look in here and see that the seal's still good and the plastic part of the TV cable's in there. So I'm just gonna tighten that bolt up, and I'm gonna go back up top and hook that TV cable back up, and then that TV cable will be ready for adjusting once we've got everything put back together. TV cable clicks on there, and I'm going to make sure these snaps on this new one are out so that it doesn't come out of there. So now that has a button on the side of it that allows us to adjust this, and it's an automatic sort of mechanism. So we'll adjust that later, but that's a new one. We know that one's good. So now I've got our replacement transmission filter. You always want to replace these because they're like $8. I also have the transmission gasket. However, apparently this comes with one. I'll probably use the Felpro one just because it is a different material. This is just rubber, but that's cool to know that the filter comes with a new pan gasket. So this is just going to go in just by sticking it up in there. It'll just sit in there like this. I'm going to oil this a little bit. So when you put the new filter in, make sure that you take the seal out of the hole.
It'll look like this.
Or it'll slide onto your new filter and it won't seat all the way. These two bolts without washers hold on this bracket for the shifter. What do you think we lost? About a quarter, two?
Maybe like 3.
Okay, so we've got it back together. I've adjusted the TV cable, filled it with fluid, warmed it up. We're gonna go see how it rides. So it shifts good. Oh, and I think I fixed the brakes too with that swollen brake hose I replaced on the driver's side.
Nice.
adjust that TV cable a little bit and see if it kicks down better. But it's got all the gears. Everything's working great. So I'll pull over up here and we'll adjust that TV cable. Maybe it needs less TV cable. Alright, that's all the TV cable adjustment I got. So I had him hold the throttle all the way down, and then I pushed the button on the TV cable and pushed it all the way in, and then that's as far as it'll go before it automatically far enough, it should drop down to first gear somewhere. See, that time it actually stayed in first gear instead of shifting early to second gear. So I think this thing's all good to go. So I'm gonna talk to the guy I'm fixing this car up for and let him know that everything's good to go, and hopefully we won't see it again for a little while, but there are some things I'd like to do on this car I'm going to look into, but for now this thing should be good for him to drive it, or hopefully park it for the winter.
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally. It's a nice car, it's old, but what we did with this shift kit and that TV cable is exactly what this car needed. Before, it was shifting every time at like right around 3,000 RPM, and as you guys saw when we took that 1-2 shift accumulator out of there, it had a broken spring. So now she's all happy and good to go. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.